Web3 TV.
Can blockchain technology make the airline industry more profitable? It's set to hit $1 trillion by the end of this year, but despite this milestone, rising costs and outdated IT systems leave many airlines struggling, with some airlines only earning around $6 per passenger each flight. These outdated systems are decades old, and when they fail, they eat into revenue gain. We can just look at last July, when a CrowdStrike update triggered a massive IT outage, costing the American airline Delta an estimated $500 million. And many other airlines reported similar losses. So you might wonder, why haven't airlines updated their tech? And is blockchain technology the answer? To understand this, I sat down with Brendan Mckittrick, CEO and co-founder of the Internet of Aviation, a company bringing blockchain technology and AI to airports and airlines worldwide. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Brendan, so at the Internet of Aviation, you're trying to change how airlines integrate tech into their operations. So tell us a little bit more about what you're building.
So unfortunately, it's getting more frequent as well. In terms of what's actually happening, you have legacy systems that are reaching end of life. So I've worked in the aviation industry for about 20 plus years, and the systems were old then. Those same systems are still running at the back, the mainframe. So what actually happened this year was CrowdStrike propagated a fault.
At the Internet of Aviation, you're trying to completely change that. So tell me a little bit more about what you're trying to do and how you started this journey.
Yeah, it's a great point because we're looking to move from a centralized world to the decentralized world. So military systems for decades have been using the concept of distributed systems. So if you have a major failure in one location, it doesn't collapse the whole system. And the systems are typically self-healing and fault tolerant. So with decentralized systems, you federate that control across the whole system. So you have replication and redundancy. And blockchain is a great example of that, where you have all these nodes doing the same thing, which seems like an awful waste of energy and time. Except when these things happen, you can see that one node can go down and all the other nodes function perfectly. And it probably should be remarked that during the CrowdStrike collapse, Bitcoin didn't even glitch.
No, it was still, people were still buying and trading.
Yeah, and Bitcoin's a great example. I think it's from, I'll get the month maybe wrong, but it was around October 2013, the year is right. There hasn't been a single outage on Bitcoin. So it's 100% uptime, 100.00. And having run data centers all over the world for aviation, nobody hits 100 on data center uptime, whereas Bitcoin since 2013 has been up. The reason for that is if you had one single node left operational in Bitcoin, the system would still operate.
So blockchain technology has existed for, at least since 2013, from my knowledge. But why hasn't the airline industry implemented this technology sooner?
Blockchain itself for aviation, the original blockchains that came out looked like solutions looking for a problem, to be very honest.
Okay.
They were also slow, and you had consensus time and so forth, and not widespread adoption was something that was initially people thought everyone had to use it so that everybody could get the benefit. And the way we're approaching it is very differently, because you don't want the whole industry to move at the same time. That's a classical fallacy that applies to a lot of standards and things, where there has to be incremental adoption.
And what is that?
So instead of saying, okay, everyone in the industry, let's all agree, all the parts on every aircraft are on a blockchain. Great solution, never going to happen. Even down to the level where Airbus and Boeing might not agree on standards and so forth. So the way we're approaching it, it should be a solution for two or more players in the industry, right?
So what can blockchain technology fix or improve when it comes to airline operations?
So one of the first product we've just got audited is a product which uses a smart contract for landing charges and all the charges at the airport. So when a plane lands at an airport, that airline and that airport have a smart contract to manage the cost of that aircraft.
Okay.
And why would you do that? You do that because there's lots of disputes. Airports lose about 5 to 15% of their revenue for not billing for things that have been, costs that have been incurred. Believe it or believe it not, this is a global thing. Some airports are very good and they don't need it, but lots of airports do. They have a lot of leakage. So that's an example where you get an airport and one airline to agree. And then you would have a second airline, a third airline, until all the airlines at that airport agree to have their contract, the smart contract. Now, it's good for the airline because the airline has real-time visibility of their costs. And there's a single pane of truth between the airline and the airport on the blockchain. So it's tamper-proof, and it's not residing in the airport systems, and it's not residing in the airline systems. It's a digital common. So they both can agree on a smart contract. They both sign it with their digital certificates, and that's now live. And when a plane lands, there's a signal sent to the blockchain saying, hey, this plane with this tail number, this maximum takeoff weight, this many passengers has just landed. And it starts a cascade of costs due to movement and activities around that aircraft.
So not only more cost effective, but it's also more transparent for the players.
It's totally transparent
So,
for those two players.
So I think, for many travelers, how can the blockchain technology help their experience when they, let's say, arrive to the airport and their whole flying experience?
I have a philosophy to say, if you're talking about a particular technology, it must be broken. Technology should be irrelevant. When I say irrelevant, it's in the sense that it works. And what is the outcome it gives? Because customers are not going to, pass through an airport smoothly and say, oh my God, that flight was amazing. That airport experience was amazing. Thanks be to God for blockchain. It's not going to happen like that. It's like electricity.
Yeah.
If it's switched off, we all know about it, but we just take it for granted. So blockchain as a distributed ledger will be taken for granted. So, for example, all money will be digital and immutable within 10 years, except for cash. And even cash, there's some schemes there. But basically, that's a system that we'll just take for granted. And it'll remove a lot of fraud. It'll mean that we'll have a lot of ease of transfer of value peer-to-peer between people. So you and I could transact without a bank in the middle. That was unheard of, 10, 20 years ago. So it also allows airports and airlines to transact seamlessly between each other. It removes the need for huge amounts of money in different currencies. So we could even transact in a very specific token for the industry itself, so a dedicated token to the industry. Or we can use US dollars, or we could use UK pounds or euros, whatever, and use maybe digital versions of those. So the friction is taken away. And that can all be automated by a smart contract. So the airlines and the airports can contract very seamlessly. Now for the customer, the benefits are a bit further downstream. The idea is to stop those big outages for starters.
Yeah.
So you can get kudos for that. You say to, now you had a great year this year. We stopped probably about 10 major outages on 100 airlines. People would just look at you and go, so that's normal. 100% uptime is kind of what you expect in terms of your personal experience. So a lot of the stuff we do will be will be unsung heroes at the back end and starting to replace the legacy core systems. But on the AI side, there will be some real benefits for passengers. So, the person out there goes, what's in it for me? What's the change? I get on a plane. It's the personalization, being able to walk up to a desk and have all those several systems at the back end that don't talk to each other, now talking to each other. That's a major change. So that kind of thing has to be something in the past. Those systems need to talk to each other in real time, not overnight batching to your loyalty. The departure control system, once you've gone into and checked in, they can't do anything with you in the reservation because you're now checked in. It's a separate system. And we need to have seamless rights for users. So you have these power users at these desks, which are passenger experience, a bit like the idea in the UAE around happiness desks.
Yeah.
The happiness centers, are you happy? Because at the end of the day, that's the emotional outcome you're seeking with the passenger.
Of course.
It's very smart. It sounds really trivial and sometimes a little bit odd, to have a minister for happiness. But the idea is that the experience should be happy and it should be seamless. So a lot of the stuff, as I said, is unsung hero fixing at the back end. And we're well underway on that. And that will allow systems to talk to each other. And it also means the reservation systems will get a lot smarter because the reservation systems, about 48% of all tickets booked today go through software that's written in the 1960s.
And it hasn't been updated since.
No, those systems are still running today. The biggest airlines in the world, the best airlines in the world still run on mainframes.
So, Apple updates their phone every single year. Why hasn't the aviation industry done that, or airline industry?
Well, they do update those systems. They are updated, but they're not upgraded.
Upgraded.
Right. So the likes of a mainframe running, there was cases where they bring people back in their 80s and 90s to fix things because nobody's left alive that understands the code. It's getting a bit hairy like that. So one of the projects we have is to change a core system, which is revenue accounting.
Mm-hmm.
And revenue accounting is where you figure out where all the money goes. And that's proration, interlining, code sharing, taxation, all of those. And we're going to make them all services that other people can use. We're going to share this as well on a central system known as Aeroblock. So that platform, Aeroblock, will be a digital commons available to everybody, not just to us.
And I'm interested to know a little bit more about, for example, you're approaching these airlines trying to upgrade these outdated systems. Are people happy to do that, or is there some reluctance, or has
Well, let's be really clear here. This is not easy.
no,
It's very
it
difficult.
sounds very challenging.
And often there's a common phrase in the industry for a CEO. How does a CEO of an airline ensure that he loses his job? Just upgrade his reservation system. That's a guarantee to lose your job. That's what they say. Doesn't always happen, of course. So people are afraid to upgrade. Secondly, they sign 10-year contracts. So they sort of kick it to the next guy, bit like governments do sometimes, put a problem on the next government. So there's not a lot of brave people out there that are willing to do this. But you don't need everyone to do it. You just need a few.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have a few and it's successful, everybody else follows.
Yeah.
That's the way I've seen it over the last 35 years of working with tech.
So are you working with any airlines right now?
We are building the tech first so that the airlines can see it in action, and that'll be sometime in 2025.
Okay.
But we have released a product for airports, and we're talking to a big airport in the region with a view to try. I can't yet, but they're going to trial this software, hopefully.
And what will this software do for the airports?
So they have a leakage of about 5% to 15%. That's an industry average. It's not just one airport, of lost revenue due to not billing airlines and things like that. So we believe our smart contract will plug that hole and recuperate that lost revenue.
And it's really interesting how blockchain technology can also spearhead so many different industries right now, and people are looking into it. But if you just look at sort of the customer experience, for example, when I go to the airport, there are several pain points. For example, if I can't check in, or if my luggage gets lost, or if there's some glitch that makes my on the system, so I have to run across the terminal. So can blockchain technology solve all of this?
What blockchain allows is a lot of players to work together on a single system by collaborating without having to trust each other. So historically, take financial. You and I would need a bank in the middle to transact unless we had cash. Right? Cash is the age-old way of transferring.
Yeah.
But even the cash has a middleman because it's stamped by a bank. So it's just pieces of paper. But we have a middleman called a bank who verifies, or a government that verifies the validity of that cash. When you have blockchain in an ecosystem like an airport, the airlines, the baggage handlers, these guys can all share data on a single common system like a backbone. And that means you know where your bag is. But the airport also knows, the airline also knows. So it's kind of by authority. Now you have little fragments of that, like there's some good apps out there, you can track your bag and it feeds off that system, but it needs to connect to every single system for every single airline or every single baggage handling belt or whatever. With blockchain, it gives you a common spine or a backbone for everybody to collaborate. That's why it's so powerful. And it also means you don't have to trust anyone because the data is immutable. And it's very hard. It's tamper-proof. So once the data goes on the blockchain, it's very difficult to tamper with it. So it's a solid record of proof, and it also is a historical record. So if somebody wants to put something onto the blockchain which is not correct, it can never take it off again. So they're less likely to put bad data up, And if data is incorrect, you can correct it on the blockchain, but now you have an audit trail to say, here's the data. So for a customer, that could be a single system in the airport, which gives them a view of where they're, all their information in a single view, a single app, super app. And it could also be across their entire journey. So it could involve the hotel, the airline, and so forth. So it'd have a single super AI agent able to gather all that data and let you know, hey, you need to go to your gate now. Oh, by the way, your gate has changed. And this could be all done through a super agent.
Through AI. It's really interesting how AI is also, working together with the blockchain technology. but we've spoken a lot about the blockchain technology. So what are you doing with AI? Like you mentioned a little bit already, but what's the vision to use AI for airlines?
So our initial play is around B2B. We want to empower the CFO and his team to see their revenue and to be able to track patterns and anomalies and compare year on year. So one of the things we're building at the moment is AeroEye, which is an AI agent that looks at your historical revenue data. Now, revenue data in airlines is notoriously complex. We're very good at it. That's what we've been doing. And some of my team members have been doing this for 30, 35 years. But they understand this data. So getting their brains and draining that knowledge into an AI agent is what we're doing at the moment. So we're building synthetic systems that are showing what that data could look like for an imaginary airline. And we're putting AI agents on top of that you can have a conversation with. So you can talk to your dashboard. And you could say, show me all my flights that missed their revenue targets in the last 24 hours. Or show me all current flights in the air globally on a map and indicate their revenue, and start to work out load factors and yield and so forth on those flights and color code them. So you can see where the problem areas are.
So it'd be sort of an AI specialized for airlines, aviation and airlines.
Airlines, yeah. What it does is it takes this massive data for the last 10, 20, 30 years, which is very complex and very difficult to assemble. And by training and educating this agent, it knows how to assemble that data in a visual. So this is something that hasn't been done before. So it's not creating new data, but it's re-visualizing the data in such a way that you see new value in the data.
Okay.
So a CFO could look at that and go, oh, wow, compare that with last year. And you have two pictures.
Yeah.
And then goes, hey, we're losing a lot here, guys. Or find me patterns such as. And then what the CFO could say is, send that screen to the CEO, please, by email. Now, he hasn't touched the keyboard. And he's talking. He's got coffee in one hand. The phone is on the other, checking if the kids got into school.
Yeah.
So he's 60 seconds into a conversation, but he sent his first email with really good information to the CEO. Now, you can also have alerts. Say, if this ever happens, send me an SMS. So you're at a barbecue and you get ding. Oh, I got this. And I got a hyperlink to see my dashboard.
It's kind of like having a very intelligent PA.
A super intelligent EA that knows the business and knows all the data.
Exactly.
That's
from
exactly
60 for 40 years. And I know that you're also working on different RW apps. So how can they easily find you?
So we've just hired Sonia Chugtai as our new Chief Marketing Officer. And she had my arm twisted beforehand to mention all the platforms, the strong launch of Internet of Aviation across all the media platforms. She's had me, sign up to a few. I'm not the most social media savvy, although I love my LinkedIn. So we're on all the Instagrams, Twitters, and all of that. And it's generally the handle is Internet of Aviation or IOA. If you go to ioa.aero, as in AERO, you will find all the information there as well. So everything that you'll find it if you search on Internet of Aviation.
I'm really interested to know more about what you guys will be achieving in 2025 and beyond. So thank you so much for speaking with me.
Likewise, enjoy yours.
I'm Lisa Amnegard, and you're watching Web3 Talks.
Web3.tv